Hi everyone! Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are keeping well. My name is Jacqueline and I am the project manager of The Other 100, coming live to you again with another episode of an interview with one of our top 100. So today we are interviewing a very special guest from South Africa, and this would be our first guest from the African continent on our live session. Her name is Tshepiso Mabula. She is representing South Africa this time. So before I go on a little more, let me invite her to share the screen with me. One second. So Tshepiso is a writer and also a photojournalist. Hi, Tshepiso. Can you hear me? So hang on, Tshepiso, your connection is a bit patchy. You are still loading. I can't quite see you. You are frozen over there. So while waiting for Tshepiso's internet connection to get back online, you might want to try log in and log out again. So a little introduction about Tshepiso. Tshepiso is a writer and also a photojournalist. So she is very interesting. So she'll be dabbling in both literature and also visuals. Tshepiso, your connection is still not, it's still very patchy. Let me try to connect you again. One second. So those who just joined, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I am coming live to you from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So do leave a message. Tell me where you're from. So one second. Hi, Tshepiso. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Awesome. I'm very good, thank you.
Are you at home?
Yes.
Oh no, so sorry, your connection is still a bit shaky. I see. So, Tshepiso, is this the best connection in your house right now? Because it's still a bit patchy, so we might lose you halfway through the conversation.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and move around a little bit. The weather's a little bit.
Yeah, maybe let's try again. So those of you who are staying online, thank you so much for your patience. So this goes to show that not every corner in the world has very stable connection. So have to be grateful, count your blessings where if you have internet connection during a lockdown. So let me see who's in the comment section. We have someone from Sri Lanka. Very nice. One second. Let me just get Tshepiso back. Thank you for your patience. So those of you who have just joined, do say hello, leave me a comment, tell me where you're from. So it's nice to not be talking to myself. All right, Tshepiso.
So I'm hoping it's gonna be better this time.
No problem. Let's try again. No problem. So now, for those of you who have not seen Tshepiso's work in the Other 100 project, if you remember, her work is quite iconic. It's a young African lady in her yellow color costume. So that when that picture came through the submission bureau, all of us in the team went like, "Oh my God, this is it." And it was internally rated as one of the top 5. So each of our team members gets like 2-3 votes to see which one are their favorite. So your submission actually ranks pretty high, one of the top 3 that we say that it should be somewhat shortlisted as one of the feature picture. So very well done. So is that girl
Thank you.
your friend? Is the lady your friend?
Yes, so her actual name is Khunzi Kwapeng. She's actually here in the comment section, Miss Kwapeng.
Really?
And yes, and she is a healer from South Africa, but she's also a very good friend of mine. And I was very privileged to have had access to her and to have been able to take that beautiful, incredible picture of her.
Right, and what we love about that entry, for those of you who haven't seen it, please go to theother100.com and select South Africa and you'll see Tshepiso's entry. So what we love about your entry is that it's taken and written by a South African about South Africa rather than, you know, someone else coming in and look at it from a very exotic lens. So we love that kind of local flavor, and that's what the other 100 is all about. Now, I think when I read your bio, I find that your motivation and your passion in your work really aligns with the mission of the project. So why not you tell us a little bit more about your journey? You know, you do literature and photography. Which one? How did you get into photography? Which one first? And how did you come to find that purpose of yours, you know, breaking stereotypes, shining a light in ordinary people's lives?
Yeah, so I started out with literature. I started writing first before anything, and I think that was a kind of gateway into the photography space. I've always been interested in storytelling, and especially interested in telling stories about people in my community, within my community, because I feel like their experiences are they're very important, and I think there's a lot to be learned from those kinds of stories. Having lived in South Africa, of course, there's a massive history of people coming in from outside and sort of parachuting in to tell our stories and then leaving with a kind of one-sided perspective.
It's a bit patchy again.
Hello?
Yes. A need for?
Yeah, so I noticed there was a need for internal storytellers, for people like myself who've grown up with these daily lived experiences, so that we could write and photograph our people into history and do it in such a way that we are mindful and respectful of their experiences as well. Yeah.
Right, and I'm sure you would agree that authenticity of that storytelling is very important. And so do you think that it is something important for South Africans to document South African stories themselves? And if so, has it been done enough?
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially like in the African continent, where we have this very violent and long history of the camera being used as an oppressive tool, of the camera being used as a way to turn us into subservient beings. It's important to have African storytellers come in and give a different perspective of the African experience, and and paint a picture that does not only reflect Black pain, but also reflects the joyful, the mysterious, the mundane experiences of what it is like to be African in this time. So I think it's important that more and more storytellers come up, and more importantly, in the age where we are saturated with images all the time, I think it's important to have iconic image makers, iconic storytellers who are going to create a documented archive of this period in our lives.
Fantastic. And at what point in your life that you have that that enlightenment to realize that, oh, storytelling is such a powerful tool, and that you as a South African should also stand up and play a part as an artist, whether in literature or in writing? Well, was there a single event or someone that inspired you that idea, and when was that?
Yeah, it was in, I think it was 2013 or 2014. I went to visit a family member, and I saw work by the late Santu Mufokeng. Santu Mufokeng is an incredible South African photographer who he passed away some years ago, if I think last year, if I'm not mistaken. And his photographs are created in such a way that you can immediately see the human connection that he's had with these people, right? So in a space where I've always been a one-sided with pain more than the kind of nuanced experiences of my people. Here I was for the first time seeing work by a black photographer that had the kind of humanity that is necessary to tug at the heartstrings while also educating the viewer about these people's experiences. So I remember seeing that work, and I was at my aunt's place, and on the spot, I immediately decided maybe this is what I want to do. So I remembered I used a phone, and I took a picture of my uncle's house. It was kind of a rundown, an old house. And I took a picture and posted it on Facebook. And I said, I'm thinking of becoming a photographer. What do you guys think? And at the time, it seemed very funny because the picture was, the image, I mean, was kind of insignificant and meaningless. But from that point on, I made a decision that maybe this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm meant to contribute into the world, especially because there were so few women doing this. There were so few Black women doing this. So I think that's how it started, yeah.
That's interesting. I think that's also kind of like the point of an art form. You never know when your art form sitting there has an unexpected impact on someone looking at it. Similarly, you're creating all these images and your literature. I was that you are interested in capturing the dignity of ordinary people. Not shining extra spotlight on the glamorous life. You could go a little bit deeper with us. What do you mean by the dignity in ordinary people?
So, I mean, growing up in a community of relatively working class people, right? We are often treated as though we belong on the periphery. So the only times that you'll see Black and poor people on a television screen, on a newspaper, is when there's something negative being reported about them. So I think my kind of influence and my aim with the work that I'm creating is to give a nuanced perspective, right? It's to say, even like outside of our political standing, outside of the fact that we are seen as very nuanced stories that need to be told and that need to be shared. So and we're still a people that are dignified, right? So in my images, I want to be able to afford the respect and the dignity that the people who have let me into their lives, who've let me into their spaces, deserve to be granted with the photographs that I'm making of them.
Right. I think that's a very important point that you made there. For those who are watching this, who are photographers themselves or who are aspiring photographers, how do you do that? How do you grant that respect and that dignity to the, like you said, to the people who gave you permission, who graciously welcome you to observe their life? How do you do that? Is there a step or certain principles that you abide by? Maybe that would give our audience guideline?
So, yeah. So how I mean, this is not, I think for me, it's not written in stone necessarily, but how I do it is first of all, engaging the agency of the people that I'm photographing, right? So in the conversation that we are having, in trying to decide what the image is going to look like, I make sure that the subject, for lack of a better word, is also an active participant in the image making process. So I'm not going to make decisions about the image without consulting with the person. And even so, I work mostly on long-term projects, and something that I was taught
Sorry, Tshepiso, your is a bit patchy.
Yeah. So I was saying, I was taught that you need to consistently engage the people that you're photographing and grant them the same power that you carry as the photographer, because there's something that we very rarely talk about in photography spaces, which is the fact that having the camera in your hands gives you unprecedented power over the people that you are photographing. And so it's important that in some ways you share that power with them, because they are sharing your stories. And so by so doing, you are not only taking from them, but you are also giving with that experience of ensuring that they are also an integral part of the image making process, and that they have agency and they have power to decide which areas of their stories are going to be shared and which are not. Yeah.
So how do you usually engage them? Do they do you invite them to see how do they pose, where do they sit, whether they like this piece or that piece? How is it that you bring them into the conversation in the image making?
Yeah. So I mean, the first thing I guess is to have a conversation before I even set up, before I pull out the camera. It's to have a conversation about what it is that I'm trying to share, and how they feel is best to do that. That's the first thing. The second is kind of sharing like my own experiences with the subject, right? So that I can say like, these are the ways in which I am subjective, these are my susceptibilities, and these are my blind spots when it comes to the subject matter, and that might show in the image as well. So please educate me on how to make sure that the image that I create is as holistic as possible. So for instance, the image that you speak about with Ugogo Ndabezinhle is the portrait where she's standing outside of her place of work, outside her ndumba. How that came about was, we had a conversation which alluded to the fact that she was unable to use that place because the pandemic had disturbed her the completion of her initiation process. And so because she was unable to use it, she herself is in some ways an outsider of the space until such time she's able to get inside and help her clients. And so the way in which the photograph is taken is meant to communicate all those different areas of the story, to say like, there are layers and there are nuances that you need to excavate slowly with each time you engage the image, each time you view the image. So it's about like having an open conversation with the people and spaces that you're photographing, and relating to them not just in a photographer versus subject way, but engaging with them on a more human and metaphysical way, which is the way I was as a people, in the spiritual, and then we relate in the physical. And that is approach to every project, every image, every story that I take on.
Right. Fantastic. I think that's very useful pointers there for those of you who are engaging with your subjects a lot lesser. So I think bringing them into the image taking process, would make the whole experience more holistic, more respectable, and I suppose it's a lot more fun as well versus you doing it alone.
Yeah, it is.
And also,
it is because yeah.
Sure, sorry, carry on.
Sorry, I was saying it is because it makes the process also a little bit more interesting, because it's not just you making an image, but it's you engaging with a story on a kind of deeper level, and you come out having learned so much from the person, as opposed to just having taken the photograph.
Yeah, and I suppose because you are engaging with the subject as well, it makes the process of that image taking a lot longer, which is not exactly the best thing according to the modern pace. People are churning out things fast, putting things up 24/7 on Instagram.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that now that it's lengthening the process? I'm sure you think it's worth it.
Yeah, someone actually criticized me a couple of years ago. They said, like, my social media is probably the worst thing about my work, because I don't believe in this philosophy of churning out large quantities of work, right? Because I think it takes away from, at least in my view, it takes away from the sacredness of the story, the sacredness of the image making process. I mean, there are situations where you can come up with massive tons of income, of content, massive tons of content that you can share just like on a daily. But there are circumstances, I believe, that require a more deepened understanding, that require a kind of meditative approach, where it's about the quality of the story, it's about covering every base, and then being able to share the work.
And right now, from speaking to so many photographers, because of the pandemic, it's definitely taken a toll on their livelihoods. They kind of don't have enough jobs. So how do you balance that kind of interest, needing to make a living, but at the same time, the dignity in the art itself takes that long, and you can't help it. That's how it is. So do you struggle striking a balance in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it is a struggle, because, like, you need to of the work over delivering something that I feel I haven't fully invested in.
Right. I think everyone here, whatever art form you're in, you want to deliver work that you believe in, and that you believe that it's the best.
Yeah. So what I did to kind of curb the kind of the material needs is, like, I work different jobs so that I can use all those incomes and that I do. So I have other work, the art form that I'm so truly in love with. And that, I think, is difficult because, again, there's very little time to do my own stuff. But I think it makes it worth it in some way, because I can invest as much time as is necessary to the different projects that I'm approaching.
Right. So one that pays the bills, and whatever money that you make from that.
Yes, and one that feeds the spirit. Yeah.
Fantastic. One that feeds the stomach and one that feeds the spirit.
Yep.
How right now you do literature and also photography? Do they exist together, or do you have like different projects, like a literary project and also a photography project?
Yeah.
Do you combine them, or do they
So at the moment, At the moment, they run very separately.
Oh.
Because I think I've struggled with finding the confidence to merge both art forms. For some reason, it feels as though right now they're better off separately. Although there have been instances where I've combined my writing with my photography, because I think it gives it so much more depth. When you look at I've been kind of like daunted to explore it a little bit further, but maybe it's something I might look into like in the future.
I see.
Yeah.
So that is a work in progress that we are all interested to see what you come up with. So, okay, I think before I let you go, Tshepiso, is this the first time you?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah.
I was just wondering whether this is your first time submitting to our project, and what do you think about it?
So I've followed the project I think last year, but it wasn't as religiously as I did this year. It was the first time submitting to it, and I think I found it so enriching, right, to be able to have a space that on such a global scale you are exposed to work from different countries, but you're also like exposed to the fact that we are all struggling with this pandemic and trying to find ways to help each other out of it. And I think for me that's the thing that really truly motivated me, was like, imagine having a story about a uniquely South African healers amongst other healers on such a global space. Like for me, that was a mind-blowing experience. And I remember after submitting, I was like checking my emails almost twice a day, because I was like, I really want to be selected for this project. So it really just brought me so much joy, and I cannot wait to get my order of the book and actually share it with people in my community, share it especially with Ugogo Ndabezinhle, because I think for her also it's a beautiful thing to think that like you are such a small part of the world, and yet in some ways you are all.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point that we want to make with this project as well. That there's so much coverage, so much airtime. The Forbes, the top 100 of the richest people, the 10 top 100 most beautiful men in the world. So what about the other 100? That's how the name came about. And yeah,
Yes.
pointed out that we want to feature healers from all over the world, and it's beyond medical frontliners, right? There are in different kind of different cultures, they appear in different form, not just doctors and nurses. Also, and society is going through a lot of healing right now, and I don't think we are anywhere near the end with the pandemic yet, until everybody gets the vaccine, and also before that, hopefully the economy survives. So right now in Malaysia, we are going through another series of lockdown. That's why I'm working from home at my kitchen. So wherever you are, and Tshepiso as well, I think you should know that there are people from different parts of the world that appreciate this mission that you have, where local people should represent their own people to tell their own stories, and the other 100 is a platform to in a way to validate people who still does it, And yeah, keep doing it. We hope to support you and many like you in how, as many ways as we can.
Yeah.
So sorry with the delayed responses because the internet keeps, there's a lag in the internet.
It does, yeah. I think it's on my end. Can you repeat that last part? Sorry.
Oh no, okay, so what I said was that we want you to know, as the team behind this project wants to validate people who are doing the work on the ground in the community scale for their own people, representing their own culture and being very vocal about it and breaking stereotypes. Don't let other people, other culture, put an exotic lens on your stories. You should tell. Yeah. You should tell it yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's important to like validate the fact that it's projects like the other 100 are so necessary because it's one thing to say you want to push to tell your own stories, but it also makes such a difference to have organizations such as yours validating that ideology, to say like, we on a global scale are willing to encourage the kind of idea of homegrown storytelling, and we're willing like to look at other areas of our existence, right? Other areas of the pandemic as well, because like everybody's focusing, for instance, on frontline workers, and yes, they are important, they're doing amazing, incredible work, but in many ways, the other kinds of healers in our society, the teachers, the grandmothers, the normal everyday people, are also in one way or the other on the front line of this pandemic, and everybody is trying with their tiny efforts to bring about like
Correct, and nothing. It takes a pandemic to make everyone realize, no matter you are African, you're Asian, you're white, the virus gets you, any whatever color you are. So unity is probably the one thing that came through in this pandemic, hopefully. And yeah, and we make some changes to that. So I think on behalf of our team, we want to thank you so much for your contribution, and thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to me. It's always great to engage with the people who makes the other 100. Back then, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have this kind of instant messaging channel, so it was always the project manager emailing, and all you see is words, and it's so great to be able to have a conversation you, and just to say that we are ever grateful for your contribution.
Thank you so much, and also just like a massive shout out to Khunze Kwapeng for allowing me to tell her story like this. Thank you, and may you be granted strength to continue this amazing, incredible project.
No problem. So
and
I
big
wish
up
you
to
well.
all the other photographers.
Yes, I hope you guys are making friends. So that's why I do a lot of tagging.
Yes.
Right. So hopefully one day when we finally can have like big events, exhibition, and those who can afford to fly in, wherever the location is, and we'll meet up. I think that will be fun. That we have everyone standing their picture with a group photo.
Finally, yeah, it will.
Okay, so I'm not going to take any more of your time. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.
Thank you for having me. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.